Hey everybody, Bryant, author, restaurant consultant, and Coach to Coach is back for another installation of the 6P training program focusing on people, product, process, positioning, protection, and profit. So if you watched the previous series directly related to this one, you just went through some opportunity cost relative to turnover and the cost to train an employee. So that leads now to the two-part series that I promised you, and that's about hiring. And we're going to break this into two sections. First, we're going to have your hiring process in general. We're going to capture and talk about what the best in the business do. Next, we're going to focus on the actual interview process, how it should work, how you're going to get them, how you're going to keep them, and how you're going to cultivate them. So a lot of important information in these new two pieces of the two-part program. So on to people. Let's talk about hiring. So a lot of people really don't do this well. A big part of the reason why so many restaurants have such a high turnover is because their hiring process is an afterthought. The hiring process is a reactive scenario based on losing somebody. Now, while there could be an argument that, hey, Bo, it's like that in every business. Well, you might be right, but the turnover is not as high in every business as it is in the restaurant business. So if you know the turnover is high and you know the cost to replace an employee is also high, then you should probably start thinking about some preventative maintenance to help you control those costs, keep people longer, make them better, and lower all of that in the sake of consistency, quality, and most importantly, profitability. So let's dive in and talk about what the best of the best in the industry do. It starts with when they are hiring. So if you ask somebody, are you hiring? The best in the business say, yes, always. Every organization has A players, B players, and C players. You can't have a full stock of A because you're going to need people to ride the bench. And, there's this cultivation process that as your C's mature to B's and your B's to A's, you can keep backflowing. Now, when you're bringing in people because you have opportunity to train, to mentor, to cultivate, that tends to cost you a lot more money than overreacting and having to scramble to get an A player. So, A, B, and C. Now let's figure out what do the best in the business do when it comes to doing the actual hiring itself. What I've seen is that instead of just having a stack full of applications and hopefully not ever running out of them, and every time Joe Schmuckatelli comes in off the street and says, hey, looking for a job as the manager here, your staff says, yeah, let me go get him. You go to the manager's office. He's like, no, tell him I'm not here. I'm doing inventory. Instead, everybody in the business is trained with the exact same language. You know what? I can help you out with that. Go to our website and under Join Our Team, there's a place where you can submit your application online along with your resume. Now, imagine just that piece alone, how much easier it would make your life, how much less cost is involved in owning all of those applications you have to keep at the restaurant, hopefully not losing them, organizing them, being able to file them, being able to go back and look to see if somebody hired before, not having the server, the bartender, or the manager drop everything that they're doing so that they can go get that application, or otherwise be rude to somebody and say, hey, you know what, you caught us at a bad time, please come back. An A player comes in your door, sees you're that disorganized, likely they're headed for the hills, right? Real good indicator that this may not be the place that I want to work at. They don't know that I come with 20 years experience at the best places in the world, and boy, I guess I'll go find a better place to work. Now, let's talk a little bit about the application itself. What are you looking for? The application is just a turnstile, right? That's where you capture a lot of the legal and personal information you're going to have to get somebody in the system. And the resume can give you a certain amount of indication or some good information as well. But there's more to it. Let's talk about the best practices as it is relative to the four most important pieces that you're looking for. Number one, experience. Resume will tell you that in a lot more depth than an application. Next, you're looking for personality. Probably not going to see a lot of that in a resume or in an application. Then you've got judgment. How do you respond in situations? What's the character? What's the reaction? What's the exchange look like? Again, not going to find that. And then of course, last but not least, is the learning agility. Now this is something that a lot of businesses are focusing on right now. Learning agility says, I don't necessarily care how long you've been doing it. You might have 20 years experience, but you worked at one place. And maybe that place was Bennigan's and they closed down. And maybe I don't want a lot of those bad habits or a lot of the things that they trained people because maybe those things didn't work. Even if they did work, I do it differently than they do. How long is it going to take you to catch on if you've been doing it there for so long? Doesn't mean you can't, but learning agility, how fast somebody can pick something else up, how quick they can respond, react, learn, absorb, retain, all of that is going to factor in to how successful of an employee they're going to be. So where do you get some of this information? A lot of companies are now using personality assessment tests. A lot of restaurants are. So you've got companies like Myers-Briggs, you've got DISC, you've got my personal favorite, the one that I use, Predictive Index. And there's a host of other ones. There's even some free ones online. You could incorporate that into what you're doing if it's a budget challenge. But again, don't get too stuck on the budget side of it. If you think about how much did you spend versus if this would really impact the quality of people, how much do I have to spend to make that big change in our employee and hiring dynamic? Now, I want to talk about let's see, where am I at? I've got my notes in front of me, and this is a big section to cover, so you'll have to excuse me. I want to talk specifically about the actual application. You've got to have your own personal application. If that means you've got to take some time and cut and paste and extract some of the basic common stuff that every application has, but then also put your personal dynamic in there, you need to do that. In another training section we have about, in our P's under positioning, we talk quite a bit about the brand. And the brand needs to touch everybody that touches your company. Everything that's customer facing needs to say, this is my company. It needs to have that same type of feel. So think about your application. Think about the common things that go wrong when you hire an employee. What were the questions you should have asked? What's the common denominator with the last 20 people who have left our company? Maybe we could get in front of that. I know you all know what I'm talking about reactively, right? We hire somebody and we never thought to ask if they had a challenge with transportation until the last 3 people didn't have a vehicle or a reliable form of transportation. They were always late because they missed the bus or it took 2 hours to get from one job to their other job. So as you identify those issues relative to your environment and your business, build those in. Make your application specifically yours. Put your logo on it. Make it a very, very fluid and brand-centric exchange between you and this potential new employee. You want to set a really, really strong precedent in the beginning that you are organized, you're detailed, you're polished, and you're professional. When you set that type of standard from the beginning, that standard now can become your expectation, and it should. So we're going to stop there today. That's it for the hiring process part 1. Now we're going to move into the screening and interview process in the next section of this. So put it on pause, take some notes, come back when you have a chance to catch the next video. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Bo Bryant, until the next one. See ya.